people. Seems really good. You get to keep a lot of the powerful cards. The only thing you're really lacking on is a 4-drop, which you can still kind of make something work.
Hmm.
And you get to keep cards like Aldor, and you even mentioned Humility, which we haven't seen yet, but both of those actually go a long way towards countering some of the powerful cards in this format. I mean, you know your opponent's going to have an Ozdormu, so
Yep,
you've at least got one target, if it comes to that.
that's right. Now, to back up on the rules, it's kind of difficult to conceptualize what cards actually work in this format, and the example I keep giving forth is Violet Teacher. So Violet Teacher has an attack, which is 3, so that counts as one instance. Has a toughness, which is 5, which counts as another instance. So it has two of those numbers already on the card. That's good enough, but it actually has the third in the description of Violet Teacher. When you cast the spell, you get a 1/1, and the 1/1 is a 1. It counts as one instance, not as two when it's an ability of the card. So that gives it 3. That gives it 1 over the required number of 1, 3, 5, or 15 instances. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh yeah, these cards work, these cards don't. That's why it was a very tough challenge for the players to come up with decks, and that's maybe why these guys didn't quite figure out Shaman. But Shaman does excel at this, as most of the spells having overload, and most overload costs being 1, 2, or 3. Kind of give it that extra push. Players can't really play BGH, they can't really play Silence, because none of the stuff really works unless you're Shaman. Earth Shock, it costs 1 mana, it does 1 damage, is a Silence. Hex, it's pretty good. You can make a lot of stuff happen. Basically, Shaman gets to play its regular deck, but yeah, with Shaman, it's not like the
Yeah.
biggest stomp ever. Like if you could play a regular warrior deck or something, we'd have a different series on our hands.
Yeah, it's mainly the issue is that a lot of spells can't be played since they usually only have a one mention of
Hmm.
1, 3, 5, or 15. But like with the shaman spells, like you mentioned, not only the overload, but hex just happens to make a 0/1. There's a lot of good 1 mana shaman spells and 3 mana shaman spells, so they just end up having a pretty good time. They're not really that restricted, so seem to be
Yeah.
a pretty powerful class. Fireball is actually the only player to bring mage, which we kind of looked at and thought, okay, you're a mage, pretty spell based, can't really play any of your spells. So, what do you think he
Yeah.
was kind of going for with this mage? What do you think we'll
Well,
see?
some of the spellers are all right. Like a lot of players are playing very aggressive decks, very zooey decks. Kibler isn't, and I think he was the only player to actually win games that wasn't playing, a very aggressive lineup. Um, but cards like Arcane Missiles do punish that pretty well. Um, and maybe if you run Arcane Missiles, maybe you realize that Bomber is pretty good as well. So maybe he's just running like kind of anti-aggro stuff. I don't think Mage gets anything. Actually, I don't think Mage gets anything.
Yeah, they are missing a lot of stuff. Like, I don't have it open right now, but like, I just wonder what made him pick mage in the first place. Because in this kind of format, usually what happens is you like look at the class and you're like, ooh, you get that still. So
Hmm.
you pick that. Like in Shaman's case, you look at it, you're like, okay, I still get Fire Elemental, I still get Hex, I still get Lightning Storm. Like, let's go. Sounds good. When you look at
Hmm.
Mage, the only thing you really see is you don't get stuff. You're like, I don't get Frostbolt, I don't get Fireball, I don't get Flame Strike, no Blizzard. Like, well, I don't know what jumped out at him. We'll find out. But
Yeah, it's not even like the creatures that work. Like the only creature that I
yeah,
think works is the Sorcerer Apprentice and the Mana Worm, which are two really good cards, but
if you have spells,
which you don't
yeah.
exactly. The mech theme kind of works. Most of the mechs are legal in general, but the mage specific cards that synergize with the mechs don't work. Like you can't run Snow Chugga and you can't run Goblin Blast Mage.
Yeah, it's well. Can you run Goblin Blast Mage? I think you can. It's got 5 attack, and in the text,
Oh,
yeah, in the
that's
text
right.
it mentions like, but still you can't run Snow Chugga, and you can't run an Oiotron.
I gotta look up Goblin Blast Mage. I need to see the wording here.
It's either A or 1, but I think it's got to be 1 because it has to mention the damage at some point. So I think
Okay,
it's
so
legal. But
Goblin Blast Mage is Not legal. It is a
Really?
4 mana 5/4. 5 is a factor, but the battle cry is if you have a mech, deal 4 damage randomly split among all
Oh my
characters.
gosh, it's not legal?
Nope.
Uh,
I think if it was, there'd be some merit to actually play Mage, because if you had that, if you had bombers, if you had arcane missiles, you'd clean up against a lot of these guys.
so we
But
still have no clue what he was thinking, but it's kind of interesting this match actually, because Firebat and Life Coach are both like insanely good players. Like
mhm.
in constructed, they have dominated. Firebat's a world champion. Life Coach has won a tournament, like just destroyed in other tournaments. But you don't. That just kind of goes back to practicing the same things over and over again. And this is a much more different environment. And so I know Firebat was pretty excited to kind of get invited to his first deck building tournament
Mhm.
because he thinks people kind of like underrate him and just think, okay, he's good at playing, but he can't like build decks well. He just gets other people to build them. So he's gonna show us stuff. I'm interested, but yeah, I think these two players are really strong players. We kind of have to see how their decks turned out, though.
Yeah. From what I know of Firebat, I remember watching his stream, around the time where he started, and he seemed to have, very, very broad, very good knowledge of the basis of most decks, why good decks work, and what makes good decks good. He seemed to have that down to a real science,
Yeah,
and just knowing those fundamentals, I think, gives you a really big head start. So I'm confident he's pretty good at it, at the very least. But sometimes it's not your day, especially when the pressure is on.
yeah. I know that his, and kind of like the Archon guys sort of style, but specifically Firebats, is like play big minions, hit them in the face as much as possible, and that's what's going to win the most. Like
Yeah.
he played two mid-range decks and two kind of combo decks at Worlds, and that's what won him a world championship. So he's always been kind of an aggressive player.
Hmm.
Uh, these decks, I mean, he picked Hunter. That's going to be aggressive. Paladin
Hunter's good
could,
so far.
yeah, Hunter's been pretty good. Forsen dominated with it. Who else had it? Dog.
I'm not sure, but all the instances seem to work out
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. The only time it really lost was to Kibler's Priest, which seemed to do pretty well against the aggression, but
Hmm.
otherwise it's done pretty well against like Paladin, against Shaman, kind of outpace them, get on the board. They
Yep.
can't really come back.
Even though the shaman is really good, even though you have the board clears in the deck, you still have to draw those board clears. And a lot of players have figured just, play a lot of very aggressive one drops. And if they lose the board at the start and they don't get their board clear, if they don't have one, which is almost every other case besides shaman, you just win automatically. So, I mean, even a very favorable situation, playing shaman against basically any other deck, I've still seen the losses come in.
Yep. So we are just waiting on the players. Probably life coach. He just got done playing some other tournament matches, so
Yep. I
just
heard
a little bit
heard
longer.
he didn't quite win in the end. You
Yep.
think you think that's like a problem? You think that might affect him here today?
I think he's gonna tilt out of the GEICO Summer Brawl.
Maybe,
I,
maybe.
I, I don't know. I mean, I think life coach is he's been in his fair share of card games. I know he does not like playing very many games per day. Like because he takes his time playing. He makes sure he
Hmm.
does everything correctly. So playing a lot of games like stresses him out. But I
Okay.
think he'll be fine for at least this set. He could actually play in 3 matches in a row off the back of 2 matches in a row. So it could be a long day for him.
Hmm. Oh, there's the Kodo. That seems like a pretty good card. I mean, if you don't have many comeback mechanics, Kodo does kind of do the trick.
Yep.
Both players have really good starting hands.
Yeah.
I think I would favor the Hunter though, just because of the comeback mechanics being unforgiving, let's say.
Well, he does kind of need something to deal with the Start Cultist, or else not only will it.
Whoa, the Leaper!
Yeah, that does it. I mean, he probably has to trade, unfortunately. Yeah, I think you do.
That's okay. You keep staying ahead on the board. That's all
Ooh,
right.
he's gonna go for the greedy play, I guess. Okay.
Oh, that does seem a little greedy.
Yeah, it's like your mech warper is going to die. You're not looking at getting any immediate value off of Jeeves over the course of the next 2 turns, unless you like top deck something that cost one.
Well,
And
maybe
now
maybe there's a lot of that in there.
you know your opponent gets value off of Dark Cultist, which
Hmm.
is just like a really bad place to be. So I don't know. I really don't like where Firebat's at here. Seems like
Yeah.
it's going to take a lot to come back.
Hmm.
You mentioned there's no comeback mechanics, for that holds true for the Hunter as well. So like if you fall behind against Priest, Kibler actually talked about this in this format. Like Priest, if it gets ahead, especially with the hero power, you're just never going to get back on board.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Hunter has the option with the Knife Juggler Unleash. I mean, that's most of what they use and constructed anyway. Both those cards being legal in the GEICO rules here.
Yep, he does have neither of those. So far, he's drawn basically just mechs. You kind of talked about how with the Mage deck, maybe he looked at mechs as a viable strategy. Maybe that was just his overall game plan was, okay, the mechs are pretty legal. You know, I'll stick with that.
Yeah.
We even see a mech from Life Coach.
Yeah, I was talking about that. I thought how if people are running Priest, some of the advantage might be to actually make Mech Priest because the upgraded repair bot is such a fantastic card. It's basically 5 mana for a 5/9 in a deck where if you get board control, you're going to keep it.
Yeah, I feel like its only real weakness is that if you're ahead going into turn 5 as Priest, you might be so ahead that you'll win anyway. Obviously, if it's a really close game, a 5/9 for 5 can kind of be the decider. So
Oh, ho,
there's
ho, look at that.
so there's that, but I mean in this case it's like he's already ahead. It's almost like a win more card.
Hmm. All right, well, the Leaper's not really as good here. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it basically trades for the Northshire in terms of board tempo.
I mean Jeeves was literally just a 4 mana 1/4 this game. So really not what you want when you play that card in your deck.
Yeah.
And the Dark Cultist has killed like 3 minions so far. And
Yeah, it's
he's
still alive
still
with that
alive.
Earthen Ring Farseer tech. There's that Bomb Blobber. Seems like Life Coach likes to favor this mid-range or control type of aspect, in which he can come back on the board gradually. And in Arena, this often does work. It's just you don't get to see it happen very often because the cards that usually accomplish this task are rare or epic. So like Bomb Lobbers are rare, Rhinos are rare, or Kodos are rare. And they're all great cards. It's just hard to see the impact that they make when you have many of them. And I'm kind of curious to see how this rolls out, maybe even past this game if Life Coach does end up winning.
What do you think about last turn? Instead of playing Bomb Bomber, just trading and getting one of those 5/5s down because they can buff themselves. And
Hmm.
like right now, he doesn't really have a way to use the repair bots.
Okay. Um, well, here comes the Kodo.
Yeah, just wants to
Not
clear
not the
everything.
best Kodo, but people have to keep in mind that like not only does Kodo kind of trump the board in some cases, in other cases it's just very strong body. If people are just playing early game cards, it's kind of hard to do 5 damage to it against the priest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Life Coach, it wasn't a value Kodo really. It was just like, if I clear his board every turn, I'm at 23. How can I lose? And now you get to take your pick of making something +3 health. So
Yeah. Um,
probably go with the Auchenai, buff that up, and then kill off the 4/4.
is there any like
Oh,
answer a hunter would have?
yeah, that was a small mistake. I think Life Coach realized it. It's like you
Yeah,
can
you don't want to buff the
choose.
zombie chow.
Well, you can choose which one you buff. So even if you did want to buff the Zombie Chow, you just play that first.
Yeah.
Uh, so not gonna matter this game though. I mean, Firebat's like completely out of stuff.
Hmm. Well, with the Auchenai on board, Life Coach can't heal, but with Firebat at 15 life, and he's probably going to take 10 damage this turn.
Yeah,
That's a
I
little
think
tricky.
he needed something like a weapon, and he already used both bows, so obviously there is no weapon left. But
But
like if he had a bow that turn, you're looking at life coaches at 11. Maybe you have a chance.
would you consider faceless on the zombie chow? Because it
Uh,
would be lethal through taunt next turn. And that's the only comeback mechanic, right? Like, how else is he going to kill a 3/8?
he's thinking about it.
I
I
think that's
mean,
actually,
that
like,
that's
kind of interesting.
that's probably the best play because like it does 7 damage, right? And silences are not legal. Like there's no
Right.
silence you can play.
Not as a
So
hunter.
well, not as any class,
Well,
right?
Shaman,
Except
Shaman gets,
Earthshock, yeah.
right.
So yeah, I guess through a taunt he could have won. It's kind of interesting to consider.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, he obviously doesn't need it. He was monstrously ahead there. So Firebat drops the hunter game. Very
yep,
nice little lead for a life coach. Yeah, it did seem some strange play from Firebat in the early few turns, as you mentioned, with the play of Jeeves. But I feel like both players still constructed quite quite good decks, and I think if that's a consistent theme throughout the other classes, it's still anyone's game. Even though we kind of maybe bashed Firebat a little bit for playing Mage. Um,
who
I think
knows?
the inclusion of mechs and the leaper in Hunter was a very good one. It just didn't work out for him.
Well, I think with Mage, maybe his best bet might just be putting in all the really powerful neutral cards. Hopefully, this is the Mage deck. Could be any of them.
Okay.
No,
It
it's
is
Paladin.
Paladin versus Warlock.
Yep. So another kind of Zooey deck versus what looked to be Mech Paladin.
Hmm. Well, Shadow Sun Cleric is one of those really good cards. Is a card that was used in basically every deck when it was a 3/3. And, well, it's quite a lot worse now, but still pretty
Ooh.
good when you're restricted.
Well, I gotta feel like the Paladin's gonna take this game. I mean, it is early, but wow.
Yeah.
Like he's got muster for battle. He's got Fell Reaver. Fell Reaver's pretty nuts.
Yeah, Fell
That's one
Reaver,
of those cards that
yeah, can't be
I was
removed.
yeah, I was like, okay, really, regardless of what class you pick, you can put Fell Reaver in your deck and it's a good card in this format. There's
Hmm.
no big game hunter. There's no removal for the most part. Ooh,
I
I
think I
think
would
I
trade here.
think I'd just go face.
Just
But
to play the Fell Reaver next turn.
so yeah, he's protecting his micro machine, but not sure.
I like that still.
He does get yeah, he gets extra damage this way, but he doesn't get to play the Fell Reaver.
Well,
Oh
no,
man.
he gets a lot of extra damage because he gets to stealth it up next turn,
Oh,
and
that's true.
he gets good turn here as well. Like the Micro Machine can hit the taunt, and then the
Yeah.
4/4 can kill the 3/2, and then Life Coach would need two Mortal Coils, and he'd still take the hit next turn.
Oh, I'd like to go face and Cloakfield. Like, there's nothing to punish you.
Yeah,
I guess he's just thinking, it's kind of along the lines of I'm so ahead on board that what could possibly happen to
right,
take.
right. And
Yeah.
the answer is nothing, like we already know. Like Sludge Belcher is going to be a little bit of a deterrent, but it's not going to start winning the game for Life Coach. Usually, the way constructed games play out, and people just kind of take it for granted, they didn't realize what's going on, is that one player who's behind is usually stalling for a combo or a particular amount of mana to actually start coming back in the game, often with a board clear spell or a strong combination of cards. So Sludge Belcher helps you get there, but in this type of game with the GEICO rules, there is no flame strike turn, there is no super combo turn. So stalling to get to nowhere is still just continuing to lose.
Yeah, if you just kind of think about it, every time you take away cards from the pool, and this kind of goes back to arena versus constructed, every time you have a limited card pool, the game becomes more and more about controlling the board. Because you not only talked about combo and board clears, but also with like an aggro deck, you're basically just trying to race. But in this format, a lot of burn spells are gone. Like, you can't play as many burn. And
Hmm.
so you're basically, you can't really race, you can't combo, you can't board clear. So there's really nothing left to do but just fight for the board.
Yeah.
And if you fall behind, unless you're one of a few specific classes, it's pretty tough to come back.
Yeah, we've really only seen the comebacks from Paladins against other Paladins so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. We kind of talked about yesterday, Warriors seemed okay. And it's one of those classes that has access to Whirlwind, access to Revenge. One card a lot of people kind of overlooked, I guess, is
Yeah, Revenge is brutal in
is un
Arena.
is Unstable Ghoul. Like, you
Hmm.
could play that card. You can get a lot of Whirlwind effects, and that would punish these decks that a lot of people chose to go with. Like right now, yeah, a Revenge, a Whirlwind. Obviously, he's a Warlock, so but
Yeah. Yeah, Revenge is one of those cards where you just never see it coming, and then you lose instantly. Because it's such a ridiculous tempo card. It's like, Warrior has nothing, I don't need to play around this. Like in Arena, Warriors just have nothing or Brawl, and Warriors just don't pick Brawl. And here
yeah,
they can't pick Brawl, so it's even less of, a worry. And then what happens is you fill the board, prep for lethal, you get revenged, and then they develop a board, and then you actually lose. And that's the type of game that is required to have a comeback in. Anyway, so yeah, we just went through the motions there. There wasn't too much exciting stuff. Firebat got on the board. He stuck on the board. Life Coach had a pretty slow deck and a pretty slow hand from it, so it didn't really quite work out for him. Both players are tied up here, 1-1 apiece, but it is Conquest. That's why we see the check marks on those classes. The Paladin can't be played, and the Priest can't be played, so most of the worry lies on that Mage deck.
yep. So far, all we've seen from Firebat, just some nice mech decks. It's worked out pretty well. Continues to, yeah, he's curving out pretty well.
Yeah, this is the strength of going first as well. Like when both players have good openers with one drops, going first means that you just win the game.
How disgusting is that Flame Imp? Take
Yeah,
5 damage.
against the Hunter.
Uh, yeah, it's like
Wow.
1 for 1, take 5. Rough.
This is going to be insane.
Yeah, I kind of looking at the way this Warlock deck is built, it feels a little too slow.
Hmm.
I mean, when you're fighting for the board so much and you can't play board clears, I feel like you need more early game. You can't rely on mind control tech. You can't play. We saw Jiraxis, we saw Emperor. I don't think you can reliably get to those cards in time.
Right. Warlock's a class where handlock works because you can afford to fall back on your board clears. You just have to draw into them. You just have to draw into your combos and big threats. But most of that is broken now.
Yeah, you can't play. I mean, they have Moltens and they have board clears, and those are the two things that let you play the deck essentially without just completely dying to aggro, and
Hmm.
neither of those are allowed. So, doesn't really tend to work out too well. It's not really a hand lock. Like, you can tell he added some zoo elements. It's more of like a demon lock, but you can't play Void Collar. You can't play any of their really powerful cards.
I do want to mention that there's a very specific type of sadness that you experience when you lose to one micro machine game after game.
I did see the YouTube video. How good is Micro Machine? Or it
Oh, did I make
was
that? I
it no
forget.
it was the one about like the top five
Oh yeah,
like most annoying cards to lose to, and it was
yeah,
usually just like random stuff like Raging Worgen, Micro Machine stuff that just runs away with the game. Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty rough. Like there's just no removal to play.
Right. Well, it might be Life Coach's micro machine, but I think it won't actually matter with this hand and board state.
Yeah, he is pretty dead. There's nothing like Sun Fury Protector that can really be played. Firebat knows how to hit the face. He's done this before.
Hmm. I think you wouldn't even reveal the MC Tech here. It's kind of
Yeah,
an important card to keep behind because you still have to win with this Warlock deck.
yep. In Conquest, when you're dead to board, there's really no point in playing anything.
All right.
Like Life Coach knows that, so he's just going to concede.
Good stuff. We've seen players make the opposite, maybe to hope to induce some kind of tilt, but that's maybe a bit optimistic.
Yeah. So
All right.
Firebat's got the lead, and it's all on the Mage deck to take home the series.
That's right. Can the Mage win? I feel like it can. While Life Coach probably built a pretty strong Paladin deck, his Warlock deck seems a bit slow. And I mean, we talked about the Mage being very poor, but we talked about if you just make one deck really aggressive, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I feel if it's just a really aggressive Mage, even without Mage cards, it'll probably do fine against that Warlock deck.
Well, you look at how the Warlock deck lost the past 2 matches. It had nothing to do with class cards. It was literally just the mech package with a micro machine. Right. So, like, and I think that's, like, if I had to guess, I'd say it's a mech Mage. So if that's it, and
Damn.
It is...
Mana Addict, what?
He can easily just mech Mage him down. You don't even need good cards.
That's a Mana Addict.
The Bat Pants. Oh, man. That is a Mana Addict. I'm not sure what spell. Yeah. Like, I guess the spare parts. You can get quite a few of those. But... Ooh. There's Mech Warper. He's got the Mana Worm. I think that's 2 Mana Worms? No, it's only 1. But yeah, there's Fel Reaver. So... Kind of like I said, it really doesn't matter what class you are if you put in the good cards in this format. And he recognized, hey, Fel Reaver's pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think he's going to get rewarded by it and just probably sweep this kind of weaker Warlock deck.
I kind of like the Cogmaster here.
You can coin it out.
Oh, no, you can coin out the Fel Reaver next turn if you don't, actually.
Yeah, I know.
That has to be better.
Okay. I don't know. Like, you could just... Yeah, you should probably coin out the Fel Reaver. And I mean, that has to... That's just game, right? Like, it's an 8-8.
It's turn 3, 8-8.
Wow! Questing Adventurer.
It's not bad, but...
What?
I prefer the Fel Reaver.
Well, I think this is better because it kind of gets your Questing Adventure going quicker. And it's going to be a 5/5 next turn, so you basically developed 3/3 less of stats. Or actually, you didn't, because you played... This develops the exact same amount of attacking power.
Life Coach smiling is like, oh my god.
He's just getting mech'd.
Yeah.
I wonder if he plays that Abusive Sergeant, I wonder if Firebat's going to play around Mind Control Tech.
Wow.
No, he didn't play it.
All right. Well, Mind Control Tech has to deliver big here.
Is it even enough if it does? He's going to 14. He wouldn't be dead.
No. If Firebat draws a 1-drop, I think he loses. If he takes the Fel Reaver.
So here we go. Nope. Arcane Missiles, Mana Worm.
Wow.
And Life Coach, yeah, I think, like what you said, he's a little fatigued. He's just ready to stop.
I mean...
He was just dead to board, though.
I don't feel there really was much that he could do. I mean, he had to make these decks on the spot.
I think that...
probably
that
yesterday, I believe. So
yeah.
I don't think it had to do much with his fatigue. It just had to be that Firebat drew very aggressive decks. And he drew pretty well and played pretty aggressively, while Life Coach was on the defense. And, well, yeah, that has not worked out at all in this format.
Yeah, that wasn't a very exciting match, but it's almost like the hallmark of these tournaments is Firebat won that match in the deck building process.
Right.
He just, like... I mean... Life Coach's decks might have worked against slower decks, but it seems like Firebat just kind of read the format better. Brought just triple mech. He wasn't like trying to do anything fancy. He's just like, I'm just going to beat you up and play Fel Reaver. And it worked.
It did work. All right, well, Firebat advances from the round of 8. He will face off against Kibler, and the winner of that match will move on to the final against Forsen. We'll have both of those matchups coming up for you guys, but before that, we'll have a little bit of a break. Just to remind you guys, If you guys want to check out some of the raffles from GEICO, you guys can go geico.onog.gg during our break. We'll only be 2 or 3 minutes here, so check it out. Stick with us. Hope you guys are having fun. I'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We have the semifinal between Firebat and Kibler almost ready to go here. Now, this should be a pretty interesting one. We really get to test if Kibler's mid-range type of approach to this tournament is really going to fly in this format, as Firebat is bringing the aggression. Who do you got to give it to? Are you favoring any one side?
Uh, I think I like Firebat. I mean, I picked Kibler to win the tournament, but I think I just kind of like the triple mech thing. Like, if this is basically the gauntlet of can your lineup handle aggro, it's not just one aggro deck, it's three.
Hmm.
So you can't okay, his aggro deck got a win, now let's play some control games. It's like you're playing against aggro every single game, and you have to beat it 3 times out of 5.
Yeah.
So whether that's going to happen or not, there's really no board clears from the Paladin or the Priest. He's going to need to get ahead on board early, and who knows? I think with Paladin, that's pretty doable. Priest, I have my doubts about. Shaman was also pretty slow from Kibler's end, so I think I like Firebat.
I feel like in the match we just saw between Firebat and Life Coach, the only match that Life Coach won was with the Priest when he kind of pushed those strong mid-game creatures consistently, and I feel like that's what all of Kibler's decks are actually doing. I think the match would have ended up far differently if Firebat played differently and not played the Jeeves. But I don't know. I feel like Life Coach kind of just had that one. And I feel like Kibler might not really be out of this yet. I feel like a well-constructed mid-range deck in this format can still pull it off.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested to see kind of how Kibler's strategies will do because obviously you do have to consider aggro in these formats. You know it's going to be a popular strategy. At
Hmm.
least a few people are going to do it. And so you need your decks to be prepared to beat it. But I think the main thing is you don't really expect anybody to just literally have 3 mech decks.
It doesn't seem that outrageous. I think originally we were talking about some of the strategies available, and you just mentioned, you just make 3 decks with 10 1-drops in each, and that's good to go, right?
Yeah, that's that strategy. It's not 10 1-drops, it turns out. It's more like 2 and 3 drops. But, curve out to Fell Reaver, beat him up.
Hmm.
It's been working so far.
It has been working. Well, all right. We didn't really get to see much of how the Mage plays out, and most of what we saw were just interesting cards that don't seem to particularly work much better with Mage than any other class. We saw the Questing Adventure, we saw the Mana Worm, we saw the Mana Addict, but we didn't see any spells. So,
Yeah, I don't think we saw a single spell, actually, so maybe. Yeah, we saw so many cards that synergize with cheap stuff. Maybe he really was just thinking, like, oh, we saw Arcane Missiles, but
mhm.
uh, maybe he was just thinking the spare parts are just going to kind of carry those cards to being viable. But I feel
Is
like if he draws those early, like Questing Adventure and Mana Addict, they're really not that great on their own.
is there actually like any Mage spells that are legal, that are any good?
Besides Arcane Missiles,
I'm firing up my Hearthstone
you can
client.
use Dragon's Breath.
Dragon's Breath.
In
Oh yeah,
in
because it costs one
fact,
less. One less.
yeah, yeah. In fact, I have like a bet with Admirable that Dragon's Breath will not win a single tournament from the time it was released until the World Championships this year. And
Okay.
the bet was $1,000 tournament. I don't think we actually specified it had to be a constructed tournament. So
Uh-oh.
hopefully that's not in his deck. But if it is, I'm gonna argue, well, this wasn't a constructed tournament. I was talking about its constructed viability.
Well, I have seen a Dragon's Breath be somewhat effective in decks with Malagos combos and Arcane Explosions, where you like play from
Yeah,
behind, proc your block, play like an 8-mana Malagos, free Arcane Explosion,
yeah,
and then free Dragon Breath for like 20 damage.
it's like that deck where you intentionally go into your deck builder and build a worse freeze mage.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one.
that's
Yeah,
the one.
I saw that. I mean, eh. I
All
don't think
right.
it's a very great card, but in this format where you can't play any other burn spells, maybe that's what you got to use.
All right, well let's go through the spells here. So we have Arcane Missiles, Ice Lance is not legal, Mirror Image is not legal, Frostbolt is not legal, Unstable Portal is not legal, Arcane Explosion is not legal, Flame Cannon is not legal, Arcane Intellect is not legal. Um, I believe there's no secrets that are legal. Fro oh,
Spellbender? Yeah.
Spellbender.
You can
That's
play
right.
Spellbender, but you can't play Mad Scientist, so it's like you'd have to
Yeah.
literally play the card Spellbender.
Yeah. Frost Nova is not legal. Flame Waker for more spell synergy is not legal. Kona Cold is not legal. Echo of Medivh is not legal. Firebat, Fireball, Polymorph, Blizzard, not legal. Dragon's Breath is legal,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Eh.
So you have Dragon's Breath, Spellbender, and Arcane Missiles as
Those
mage.
are the only spells?
Those are the only spells that you can play.
Wow. I mean, there's also a chance he kind of screwed up, put in some spells and thought he could, and then those are now Magma Ragers. That
Perhaps.
could have happened. I think more like he was just thinking, okay, you get Clockwork Gnomes, you get Tinker Towns, you can't play Mech Yeti.
No.
So you only have 4 sources of spare parts.
What
Eh,
about Toshli? He's 5 attack. Does he have
yeah.
any other one?
No.
It's a spare part, probably. Yeah.
Yep. Nope. So it's just gonna be those few spells in his mage deck that has some spell synergy cards in it.
Well, we have quite a match here to open up with. We have Paladin from Firebat, Shaman from Kibler, two of perhaps the strongest class in the tournament so far. Man, Firebat is nailing down these mech curves.
Yeah, these mech workers, man. But Kibler is playing this pretty well. Uh,
What do you
well,
think of the
actually,
Lightning Bolt versus Rockbiter there?
I think he was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna totem next turn,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of like lightning bolting first, just get the overload out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
It does cost him a totem on this turn, or rather a haunted creeper, but then you'd overload yourself next turn. Maybe it
Yeah.
worked out a little worse for him, but I think the idea was correct before, because he didn't know he was going to top deck that.
Right. And it's also important to note that the totems are like a lot less valuable when you have far fewer ways to pump them up with attack.
Right. There's no real.
Whoa, Blood Knight!
Oh man, the unfortunate thing here is he's gonna probably Earthshock that Blood Knight,
Yeah.
and he won't have it for that Scarlet Crusader.
Hmm. Well, he's thinking about that Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm isn't too bad. It has the potential to clear the board if it hits the Spider tank for 3. But I never want a Lightning Storm on turn 5. It always feels so bad.
Yep.
You always want to do a 2 overload card on turn 7, so you could have 6 mana for perhaps another Fire Elemental or just a Fire Elemental.
Ooh, did he go for it? No, he didn't. Okay, he just totemed. So I like this play. Like you said, you really want to use that Fire Elemental on turn 6. Unfortunately, kind of like I mentioned, Scarlet Crusader now gets a lot better.
Okay.
And Firebat's basically going to play around Fire Elemental with the Coghammer.
Yeah, Firebat can instantly kill a Fire Elemental, and the Fire Elemental actually basically trades for a weapon charge in the 3/2, which kind of sucks.
What do you think about killing totems in this format? Like, it's much less important than it normally is, but do you think it's still important to just keep the board clear? I mean, it's just a healing totem.
I don't even know if there's that much thought being put into it. I think it's just when you play against Shaman, you just
Yeah,
know that you want to kill all the totems.
it's almost like a habit at this point where it's
Right.
like, okay, totem, kill it. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
What does he go with here? He's probably going to go with the Crusader and the Harvest Golem.
Yeah, I think the only real question is if you trade, and I think you kind of have to respect Lightning Storm here. You haven't
Yeah.
really presented a good Lightning Storm this game, so you can't eliminate it from your opponent's range. So this is pretty in line with his plays so far. He's just going to try to control the board. If he gets to Tyrion and there's no Hex, that's great. Unfortunately, Kibler can draw the card Hex because it is legal. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, it kind of works here with Earthshock out of the way. It's kind of hard to really deal with that. And he's going to have to get Hex for Tyrion. Tyrion's one of those cards that if he's not like hard removed, he's just winning the game by itself.
Yep. Yeah, Kibler doesn't have that great of a hand. I mean, the Storms should be good. It
Yeah.
might be a card that Firebat won't play around very much. Kind of can't play around it. Oh, and there's the Hex.
Wow.
Yeah, at this point, I think Kibler's actually pretty favored to win because of how well his cards are going to line up.
Mm-hmm.
He might do. He might have to do something crazy like Double Storm. Double Storm would clear this board,
Yeah, I think it has to be Double Storm.
Ooh.
Oh!
but you really want a Double Storm with that guy.
Yeah, you do. Well, there's not much that you can do. I don't think one Lightning Storm is good enough. So
Yeah,
really,
it
you have to look at Double Storm, or if you really want to do an Alakir play.
Yeah, I mean, Alakir here is actually extremely weak, I think.
Yeah.
You probably just go face, or maybe you clear the
Yeah.
Harvest Golem? No, because then you'd want to clear. I don't know. I think Double Storm is actually it. You
Yeah,
just kind of.
if you do play Alakir, you do go face, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like I feel like Alakir is going to help you stabilize later. Like if you just go for a pretty slow game here. Of course, the
Mhm.
Double Storm into Hex on Tyrion would line up extremely well. He doesn't know that for sure, but. Uh, so it looks like I think this is pretty interesting. I guess he's setting up. He just wants to use one storm next turn, and that's going to
Mhm.
work out really well because he gets to go Unbound, Hex, and Lightning Storm.
Yep. And the Unbound can't be killed from the board. Fire Rat will have 4 damage.
Yeah.
He
Well,
might he might
he'll
get the
just
kill
have
though.
two. He'll have the two and the Cog Hammer.
Yep. With a spare part, it might happen though. And
So
the Divine Shield placed. Nope. Wrecked.
he's playing around Hex.
Hmm. I think now we are going to see the double lightning storm though.
Yeah. I mean, it guaranteed clears. Where I think this works out even better for Kibler. I mean, Firebat probably feels pretty good. Play around Hex and stuff, but you didn't play around the double Lightning Storm.
Yeah, and then he's gonna have to play Tyrion, which is going to be terrible.
Yeah, so Kibler navigated this pretty well. I mean, he had to play a really bad Alakir, but it set him up for these really powerful turns later.
Hmm. Yeah, and he is now in quite dominant position. Ooh, the Fell Reaver is quite nice. That lets you bait
Yeah,
out the Hex.
and you can kill that Unbound if you want. I think he might just go face. Looks like he's killing it, but
Hmm.
yeah, he's baiting out the Hex here, and then he's trying to just carry the game away with Tyrion, which could work.
Very good strategy, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless Kibler gets another Hex.
Yeah, I mean, Kibler's facing down 11 here, so it's very unlikely that you Emperor. Yeah, and he only got 6 mils, which in the grand scheme of things probably won't matter at all since this game won't go to fatigue most likely.
Right.
He gets
It
a lot
might.
of info.
Yeah, if he gets another Fell Reaver, it might, but other than that, no.
Yeah, Kibler sees that, and now he's thinking, oh no.
Yeah,
What went wrong?
even if he gets the Hex here, he's still kind of behind on the board because there's going to be so many small
Yeah,
creatures that he can't deal with.
the 1/1s are just going to stack up until the game ends. He actually has no way to remove them now.
Alright, well, Nozdormu doesn't seem too bad. It kind of absorbs damage.
It seems pretty bad. Everything seems bad because they just can't take off the Divine Shield.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that Fell Reaver top deck was probably the only card Firebat could have drawn the win. I mean, I guess he could have drawn them in the opposite order, gotten his Tyrion Hex, and then won the game off Fell Reaver, but it's definitely better the other way around.
Yeah, Tyrion, I mean, he has to be silenced, he has to be hexed. Something really bad has to happen to him because even if he's killed through damage, the Ashbringer will often just end up with you ahead or you winning the game.
What do you think about, I guess, going face leaves you open to a top deck Hex, but I was thinking maybe you could just go face, set up lethal.
Hmm.
Like, there's very few things that can actually punish that with both storms out of the way. Yeah, he would have just won the game.
No, he had lethal anyway with the muster and the micro machine
Yeah,
getting pumped up by 1.
Yep. So with the juggle missing, this is going to be lethal.
Yep.
If he can get all the attacks off, which he didn't, he missed lethal. We've seen this happen more than once.
Yeah. And now he can't even play muster. Wow. That was a pretty good Nozdormu.
That Nozdormu saved the game, technically. Now he can top deck Hex and Harrison or something. If he top decked Harrison into Hex. No. No. So that's
Don't play
going to do
anything.
it.
Alright, good.
So Firebat's off to a good start, but I feel like that was probably his most powerful deck.
Right, and he did have a good game with it, though at the same time it was against a tough matchup as well from Kibler. So we'll have to see. Still feel it's very very even in this case. I know you have the aggro lined up to win, but I got my faith just as much in Kibler's decks. Actually, probably more in Kibler's decks because we still have to see that Mage take a win.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if it gets to a 2-0 situation where the mage just has to win 1 out of 3, I
It
feel
probably
like
will.
the mech warper scenario is going to come up at least once where it's just kind of like,
Right.
doesn't matter what class I'm playing, here's my mechs, go. I have to feel like, though, Firebat's done well, and I like his strategy. And going back to the 15 minutes thing, they didn't have much time to pick these decks, but Shaman has to be better than Mage,
Right.
100%.
Right. Well, Mech Warper strikes again. Holy cow, man! It seems about every game is like this.
Yeah, but it is the Hunter deck he drew it with, and there is the Zombie Chow. So
Mhm.
Kibler's and Zombie Chow Coin Vellens is basically what you want.
Yeah, it's like GG.
Yeah, I mean I think it's going to be like the opposite of what you expect here, which is for Firebat to run away with the game with the Mech Warper. It's going to be Kibler running away with Coin Vellens.
I think he might just play the Shadow Boxer though.
What does that really do though? It leaves you with a
Actually,
weaker board. You save the coin.
mm, well, you might play the Technician as well.
Yeah.
I don't think the Velns is obviously the best play. I
There's
think
a
it's
toss
about
up.
as good as the other ones. Yeah.
The Velens and the Blackwing Technician are pretty similar plays. This one leaves you with a
4 health.
4/4, which is comparable, but yeah, but it's a priest 4/4, a damage
Right.
one. So like you can heal it up if you need to. Uh, the important thing, and maybe what Kibler was considering, is does contest Spider Tank and
Mhm.
tech. Well, it would contest the Tinkertown anyway because there's no mech. So I think this lined up better, and now he gets to develop the Technician anyway.
Mhm.
Pretty smart play with the Velens. It was very slightly better.
Had he not done that, had he done the opposite, what would he have had here? He would have had a 5. Um, how much damage is that
If
thing taken? It starts with
five
7, 6,
five
6,
six, yeah,
3. No.
it'd be a 5/6.
No, because oh right, because it only takes that one hit. Yeah.
Yeah,
So a 5-6 or a 4-1 and a 3-5. So yeah,
yeah,
this turns out to be marginally better.
and
It's
against
true.
Hunter, really what you want is not only just like healthy stuff, but you
Some
want
quantity.
multiple. Yeah,
Yeah.
you want multiple attacking units. You don't want one big one because the hunter is just going to spam a bunch of small stuff. He
Hmm.
could go for a 50-50 Shadow Boxer this turn.
I think he's going to go for a
That
33%
was
Shadow Boxer.
was that the wrong order? No, because he has to heal before trading in, so it is a 33%.
Still worth going for. Very good stuff.
Yep.
It does leave Firebat with a mech on board, and that creates some options here. I was
Yeah.
actually hoping to see the Tinkertown played first. Would that have mattered at all?
You resolve your RNG effects first. So he could have used the spare part over playing a micro machine to get. No, it
Take it
wouldn't
down to
matter.
3-3.
Yeah, but then your opponent has a 4/1 to trade into your
Yeah,
4/4, so
yeah,
nothing would have changed his play.
right. All
So I
right.
mean,
Well, if Kilber gets the 50-50 here, he's going to be in really good shape.
just going face. He doesn't care.
Doesn't even care.
Yeah, I mean, I like this too. He's basically develops more units again, and the only thing that really punishes this is Juggler Unleash. You already saw one Juggler.
Well, there's the other one, but we're probably going to end up seeing it this turn.
Yeah, I mean, if he had Juggler Unleash, especially with the spare part, he could create a bunch of 1/1s, and the priest doesn't have a great way of killing those. It's just like you have to deal with them each individually. There's no Holy Nova, there's no Light Bomb.
That juggler hitting face certainly doesn't help the situation at all. Firebat's just perpetually behind. Um,
Yeah.
I just don't see how he catches up in this game at all.
Yeah, I think this comes back to, I mean, Kibler had the zombie chow. Fireback kind of missed a one drop. He doesn't have too many in his stack. It's more centered around twos, and Kibler went second, which I think was
Mhm.
actually, in the context of this game, it was a lot better.
Yeah, he's able to play those super powerful three drops rather than a two drop that just trades in whatever.
I mean, I feel like this is the matchup you want, though, if you're Kibler. It's like if you ask what he'd like to queue his priest into, it's probably Hunter.
Right.
So
Yeah, you're not vulnerable to just getting chipped away.
things went pretty well, just from just the start of this match
Yeah.
for Kibler.
Yeah, Firebat realizes there's absolutely no chance he's coming back from this dire situation, and with that, Kibler evens it up. Score is tied at 1-1. More importantly, Firebat has to win with Hunter and Mage, which seems like it would be perhaps more of a struggle than winning with Paladin and Shaman.
Yeah, I think Paladin and Shaman overall are better classes, but maybe that Shaman deck we have seen it's pretty slow.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe that struggle is just against the mech theme in general, despite being an overall stronger class. He did draw Lightning Bolt and Rockbiter and still dropped the game. He drew Lightning Bolt, Rockbiter, and two Storms and still dropped the game to the Mech Paladin.
I don't know if that's really what you want, though. Like, he drew two storms, but he drew two storms when he didn't even need one storm. I think you want, like, an Unbound Elemental. You want the Fire Guard Destroyer, just to,
Ooh.
like, pressure down. Oh, that was probably, like, a Fireball or something,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
imagine.
Like I mentioned, I think he put in spells, and those spells were not legal.
Yeah.
So he did put in Soot Spewer into his deck, but I mean, this is the start you want if you're Kibler. He got 1 into 2. He went first with Zombie Chow. You
Hmm.
know, Firebat might be really good at drawing Mech Warper, but Brian Kibler's even better at drawing Zombie Chow.
Is he?
So
I think it's about the same. Like,
they both have it every time.
yeah, literally every time.
So ridiculous.
Here comes Arcane Missiles.
Yeah, I actually don't
Looks
think
pretty
he
good.
wanted. I don't think he wanted to kill the haunted creeper.
Um,
Maybe.
yeah, I think so. I think he did actually.
Okay.
Because now it doesn't directly trade. In the
It
other
would
case,
would it
it
have
would.
anyway.
Well, it can attack
Okay.
to the
Okay.
Mech Warper, and then the two threaten, so it requires you to hero power.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, the arcade missiles, more importantly, did kill the zombie chest. So I feel like if Firebat had one more mana, this game could just be over. And Kibler kind of begrudgingly played that Aldor. He's like, I'm gonna regret this later.
Yeah. Kibler's hand is. Oh wow, Blinktron. How about that? That's some aggression right there.
Yeah, just throwing
What
in whatever mechs you can.
is it? Whatever. I think it's not a bad card if he's playing the type of like steamroll tempo mech synergistic deck. If you're ahead in that situation, even
Well,
marginally so, and you get initiative with a weapon as well, I think that's game over.
yeah. Well, to be fair, when I was considering the card just for constructed purposes, I did the math, and I mean the average damage it does is pretty reasonable. It was like, 5-ish, and that's about a burn spell for 5 mana, and you get the
Hmm.
unit. So if if you're in a limited format where you can't play burn spells and you want burn, it's pretty much what you go with.
Yeah. Here, Magma Rager punishes Kibler once again.
Yeah. Well, he's got the backup, so he'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, Kibler drawing the Blackman Technician was a really big draw. It made it so not only did he not have to play the Twilight Drake, which would have been a similarly strong creature, but he does get to keep the dragon in hand, which lets him have that hold mechanic from the Corruptor in the following turn.
Yeah. Now, Firebat doesn't trust his RNG. Didn't go for the weapon. But this could test the board, but again, I feel like if Kibler just stays even, he's probably ahead. He's got initiative right now on board, and he's at 30 health against the aggro deck.
What do you think about Twilight Drake and the Haunted Creeper just to get rid of two cards? It's about the same strength on board, and you're not really benefiting much from reducing the cost. Oh,
Uh,
I see. Going
I
face.
like
I like that
this.
too. I like that too, yeah.
Yeah. I was actually just thinking about going face. I mean, when you're at 30, taking 8 isn't nearly as big of a deal. So yeah,
Well,
I
that's
mean,
not the
what
weapon you want.
is that an eagle horn bow?
I don't know what it is, but it's got a death rattle effect, I
It's
believe.
3/2 with an effect, so I think it's an eagle horn bow.
Okay. It
Uh,
could be a power mace, right?
it could be no, because it's a death rattle.
Oh, the death rattle has the skulls, right? It's the lightning
Yeah,
bolt. Yeah,
yeah,
I think you're
lightning
right.
bolts. So that's one off lethal, just straight up. Uh, so I mean, now Firebat's kind of like, how do I win?
Hmm.
What have I done?
Yeah, the Blingtron's a really good card if you're winning even slightly, but if you're losing, I feel like it's almost always a liability. And I think this is another example of that, where just giving his opponent more damage when he's about to die really doesn't help the situation at all.
Yeah, and one interesting thing is with this Fel Reaver, I mean, it's pretty much a lost game for Firebat. And now I think there's actually a lot of merit in just burning your opponent's cards, seeing what they're playing. I think I would not play Hungry Dragon here. I'd go for Haunted Creeper and Muster, even though it overwrites your weapon.
Hmm.
Like I just want to see more cards in my opponent. It's so important in this format. But Hungry Dragon, it's going to be so. I guess he does have a good idea. Like we
Yeah.
talked about, there's only 3 spells you can even play. So
It
like,
takes a little bit to figure out that, though.
well, yeah, but Kibler can literally search that,
Hmm.
between these games or before the games. So you know exactly what you need to play around. You know exactly what their deck can contain, and I mean the rest of it's pretty much just mechs.
Yeah, it's not much of a surprise factor. In fact, now that I think about it, it's probably the Blingtron that really is the only surprise in the deck at all. You've
Yeah,
already seen the Mana Attic, you've already seen a few of the other cards, and really the Blingtron is now something that you maybe might choose to play around, but the rest, pretty vanilla.
yeah.
And now we're in the opposite situation where Kibler gets that second point first, and you have to favor him here, don't you?
I think you do. Yeah. I mean, I set myself up really nice. I predicted Kibler to win the tournament. Predicted Firebat to win this match. So
So
either
political.
way, I win.
Okay,
But
okay.
I mean, when you're up 2-1, I think regardless of how bad the matchups have to be. They have to be worse than 30% for you to actually be unfavored overall. So you
Hmm.
have to have a 30-70 into a 30-70 to be, not the favorite. So I'd say Kibler's probably slightly favored, but I mean, I think if any deck was going to drop to these aggro decks, it was going to be the Shaman.
Okay.
And
Well, another
Firebat
good
has a
hand from
really good
Firebat.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really big micro machine very quickly. Probably see the Earth Shock here. Oh no, right. He had the Haunted Creeper as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think his opening hand was Haunted Creeper double Earth Shock. Looks like he picks up the other Fire Guard Destroyer. I think he threw one away in his opener and a Rock Biter. Rock Biter's pretty nice.
Yeah, Kibler actually has ways to deal with this. I mean, and then Feral Spirit kind of stabilize. This is not looking too bad. He can clear the board if he wants. He could also just leave one behind. I feel like you just clear probably, especially if you're aware of Metal Tooth Leaper being a card.
I think the real question is, do you want a Haunted Creeper at 1/1 or do you want two 1/1s? Looks like he
Uh,
wants the 1/1 with Death Rattle still available. It's a better
yeah.
investment in the game.
I think he misplayed that though. He took an extra damage, right?
Oh, I didn't quite see.
He took 3 from the Cogmaster. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
regardless of which one you silence, it becomes a 1/1
Right,
because you take its effect away. So
right.
he took 1 extra damage, which probably won't be that relevant, but who knows?
All right. Well, here comes the Metal Tooth Leaper and the Abusive Sergeant tackling down that Fire Guard Destroyer played on turn 1, which is a very unusual situation. You basically never see this. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's 7 damage face.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, so trading here, he's thinking, I'm going to play Fel Reaver next turn. That could carry the game. I should just set up for the most clean Fel Reaver possible. But at the same time, he's thinking, okay, wait a second. Fel Reaver does 8. This thing does 7. I could just take the 7 now. But I think he realizes if he doesn't go for the trade, you kind of just get outvalued. You're left with a 3-3. Your opponent gets to have that Fireguard Destroyer still, and your Fel Reaver is just considerably weaker.
Here we have the situation again where Kibler really doesn't want to play anything because he wants that turn 6 Fire Elemental, and I don't blame him at all. I think not playing anything is actually the play to make.
Yeah. And now, going back to how much you care about totems, I think you go face. Totems do not do much in this format. There's no Flame Tongue. You can play Argus, but that's, you can't play around that right now because your opponent has multiple minions out. And every bit of face damage is going to matter from here on out.
Alright, well, looks like Kibler's going to take that 8 damage hit, which is going to be extremely significant, but he might not take anything after that, as he's going to be able to taunt up pretty nicely and probably maintain the board.
Wait, oh no! He didn't play the Spider Tank!
Misplay. Or he wants to get that hero power in.
He just wants the hero power. Are you kidding me? I think a 5-4 was probably better than a hero power, but I guess he's thinking, hey, 5 more of those, and this game's over.
Yeah.
Be interesting if that wins him the game, the hero power decision.
Well, I guess double 3.
Both kill commands got burned.
Yeah. I think you actually go face here.
Oh man. You've seen one Unleash, but an Unleash would end the game off the top. Whew.
Would it end it?
Yeah, you'd have exactly enough
exactly
to get through. So, yeah, I think going face allows him. We can't see how many cards there are left, but maybe if he top decks something low costing, he can burn out enough cards that Firebat's basically just out of the game. I wonder if the 5-4 not being developed is going to matter, but
it looks like Firebat's considering saving the Juggler for a turn where he has another creature to play, or perhaps the other Unleash.
Yeah, I don't think you can really be that optimistic. Oh gosh, he is.
Looks like you can be that optimistic.
All right. Well, yeah, I think I would have liked playing the Juggler because your opponent... Oh, wow. Well, if your opponent has a second Storm, then yeah, holding it's great. I was thinking your opponent already has to trade on board. He has to put a lot of his minions into yours. Your opponent actually wouldn't have a way to kill the Juggler because he has to put the Fire Elemental into the Spider Tank and then 3 damage into the into the Fel Reaver, leaving him with only 1 to deal with your Juggler.
Alright, well, here the Fire Elemental does have to trade because you do need that taunt up, I feel. You can't really close out this game too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have 2-turn lethal, so... And he's at a very critical amount of 7. Oh, wow.
Looks like he's going to try.
So a bow here would end the game pretty much, but... Yeah. I don't think that face hit's going to matter too much in the grand scheme of things. I think it made him more susceptible to a bow this turn. Though I guess a bow might have ended it anyway, because he only needs to get 1 bow hit through. So 4 damage would end the game, but no. And yeah, I mean, now you have to get 2 attacks in with that Fire Elemental, but you can't.
Well, you're still not dead. Like, you have 3 turns.
Yeah, I think what you need to do here is actually go face, play Manatide, and hex the Knife Juggler. I guess this works out too. So now you have 2 turns, but now Firebat has 2 draws. And Firebat's deck is really small, and we haven't really seen a bow, I don't think. Unless I missed one of the mills, but...
We haven't seen the Unleash. Oh, the Alakir is huge.
Yeah, well, that's not game.
No, he's still 1 off lethal. He does have quite a few cards that do produce lethal, though, so he can draw into it.
I mean, you have to play Non-Storming, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, he was thinking about Hero Power, but the Hero Power, you're still on a bow top deck to win, so it doesn't change your outs at all. And Alakir protects him, and now what can he draw, though? Can he draw anything? He already used... Both kill commands are gone.
Unleash, I think, is enough, isn't it?
Unleash would do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He has one left of those.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope. And that's the mech warper
He
you
can
don't
draw
want.
a taunt part.
Oh, a taunt. That's right.
Yeah,
No, he can't. He's at 1. The totem will kill him.
oh, that's it. That's
Yeah,
gonna do it.
he would die to the 1/1 totem if he drew a taunt.
Kibler barely gets through.
But he does get through.
He got
Kibler
through?
moves on to the finals. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be playing against Forsen shortly enough. And here we are. We actually have quite a variety for our final, even though we saw aggressive decks kind of dominate the tournament all throughout. Kibler kind of showed us that it's not really all about that. You can make it work with mid-range. So we are going to see the very aggressive Forsen lineup against Kibler's very mid-rangey lineup in the finals. They're playing for some pretty big bucks. First place gets $2,000. Second place gets $1,000. So yeah, a bit of money there. Also, the format is a little bit different for the final. Right now, in the time we have off, the players are going to have to construct a 4th deck, and they will be playing that because it will be a best of 7 rather than a best of 5. Now, what do you think the players will really have to gain from this? Like, Forsen, he just played 3 aggressive decks. You can probably just play a 4th aggressive deck. And Kibler, he can probably just do the same thing if he wants. Do you think that the players will do that rather than kind of maybe having a new dynamic in their lineup?
I think maybe Kibler could go for something like an anti-aggro deck because he knows Kibler's decks, or he knows Forsen's decks.
Right.
Forsen knows his, but Forsen's kind of committed to this aggro strategy. He'll probably just add a 4th deck, whatever he feels is good. I would think Forsen might add Paladin, because also they've had time to reconsider what's best. Right. They had 15 minutes initially. Now they've had basically a day to think about it. So I think Forsen
has certainly had a day.
Yes.
Kibler didn't know he was going to make it to the final.
I think Forsen will add Paladin most likely. You can make that a pretty aggressive deck. You can make a mid-range deck, but I think he's going to realize, okay, that's a pretty strong deck I missed out on. As far as Kibler, I think Kibler pretty much hit the nail on the head with the Shaman and Paladin picks. So maybe his 4th pick might be like a Warlock deck, but at the same time, I don't like Warlock because of Forsen's aggressive decks. Yeah, Forsen
haven't performed.
I'd actually like to see maybe like a Warrior deck even. Just kind of going back to those Whirlwind effects. They're all playable. They're all pretty strong. We kind of talked about you can actually play the Patron deck minus Despite, which is pretty important. But
yeah, but at the same time, you can't really remove a patron with anything.
You can't remove patrons. Yeah, you were talking about if you just play Unstable Ghoul into patron, that's just game against some decks.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see something like that. I would like to see something anti-aggro out of Kibler, and I'd like to see Paladin out of Forsen.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think at this stage, the players kind of know what the other one's playing quite well. They're really playing into that rather than just a general deck against the field. They're no longer against the field. They're in the final match. And that's exactly what we can expect from them. Paladin certainly seems to be like the strongest option that Forsen can play. I don't exactly remember his classes, but I do remember he had quite some regret for not picking Paladin already. So I'm sure those wheels were turning already. As for Kibler, I don't really think that Kibler would really go to Warrior straight off the bat, just because it seems like a little bit of a risk. No one's really tried it.
It's not tried, yeah.
Yeah.
Like so, from Forsen's perspective, he's like, okay, Paladin's great. I know that for a fact. Let's go with it. Kibler's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. We've seen Kibler play Hunter in the past. I think you can actually make maybe even a defensive Hunter deck if you throw some taunts in there. The Unleash is a very good comeback mechanic. I don't know. Maybe even Dragon Hunter could add to his existing lineup. I'd say his choice is certainly much more flexible and much more unpredictable than Forsen's. But we'll see. The players will have a little bit of time. I think we're going to take a break for about 5 minutes while the players get their final deck complete for the best of 7 finals coming after this. And yeah, should be pretty fun stuff.
break, head over to geico.onog.gg and you can enter the raffle. But we'll see you guys in 5 minutes.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're getting ready here to head into the finals of the GEICO tournament. Just if you guys are just tuning in here, just to update you guys of what's going on. We started with 8 players. We went down to 4, and now we're down to 2. And those 2 players are Forsen and Kibler. They've been playing the GEICO Brawl rules, which today are actually right below us there. You guys can see those. And a little bit of details. Some of you guys may just be tuning in now. All cards and all the decks of all the players have had to follow the first rule, which is you need 2 instances of factors of 15 on every card in your deck. So the factors of 15, 1, 3, 5, and 15. They have to be shown on the card, in one instance on the attack, on the health, on the description, or the mana cost. So Violet Teacher would be like a 3 attack, that counts, 5 health, that counts, spawns a 1/1 in the description, that counts. That's 3 instances. You only need 2. And this has some interesting repercussions, which we'll see as the decks get revealed here. And of course, all decks must include Nas Dormu. Failure to complete the tasks here. The first penalty is the Magma Rager. We've seen quite a few Magma Ragers in the tournament, but not much else from the penalty list from what I recall.
Yep, Forsen still has a pair of Magma Ragers lurking in one of those decks. I forget which one it was, but hopefully those don't pop up for him.
Yeah.
Looks like he added the Paladin deck like we expected, and Kibler
That's right.
actually added Warlock, which I
I
have
didn't
to think.
expect that.
I have to think that's going to be nothing like Life Coaches, right? Like it's going to have taunts, it's going to have healing, it's going to have early game. Like you just need early game. You need zombie chaz. You need all the stuff to survive. Or maybe he just goes zoo and just tries to fight fire with fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the aggressive creatures are just more efficient than the defensive creatures. Like taunt is worth like a death rattle, basically. So I think generally you want the annoying zoo creatures even in a defensive deck most of the time. You just kind of include a few of those extra defensive tools to maybe make it work. But we will see. The players are ready. The players, again, are playing Conquest. Normally, we're doing best of 5. Players had to submit 3 decks, had to construct all 3 decks within 15 minutes. But the 4th deck, the ones that we just talked about, this is only for the final round. The players had... they had a day to think about it, but I think they just had a few minutes to submit the deck just before the finals here. If you missed it, Forsen did pretty well yesterday by just zerging the crap out of his opponents with his aggression. Seemed to work out pretty well.
Yep. He was just basically, I mean, he ran over Ratsma just in 3 games flat, beat a Warlock deck, and he had a closer series against Savitz. But at the end of the day, the aggression seemed to be the king of yesterday. And of today, it's kind of been the opposite story. I mean, Firebat won with some aggro, but Kibler put him down 3-1 pretty quick and made it here with some slower decks.
Yeah, well, looks like we have a Paladin mirror. This is the deck that Forsen just added, so it's probably a pretty well built deck. Most of the decks so far have had how should I say, maybe like a kink or two, a few things that didn't go quite as planned because it's hard to plan things perfectly in the allowed time. So here he drops the Knife Juggler. I don't really see why it's a risky play at all. It's not like you're going to run up against a shielded minibot or anything.
Yeah, the only thing that really would counter it would be a just a coin Coghammer. But I like it. It was an ambitious play. It was the most aggressive one you can take. Follows along with what Forsen's been doing, and he got rewarded for it. So he's going to be ahead on board early.
All right. Well, to follow here, I mean, you have to. Do you have to kill every creature? Yeah, you probably have to kill every creature.
Well, I was just kind of thinking about that. It's like you get a pretty nice trade here, but at the same time, you could just go face.
Yeah.
There's no consecration. You know, the only thing that really punishes you if you go too far in is mind control tech, which we see in Forsen's hand right now. But yeah, I mean, you can be safe, I guess. I wonder why he went for the juggle then before attacking.
Maybe he tried to save the weapon charge and the damage to face.
It's good that he did trade because the Muster for Battle is the one card that would punish him.
Right.
With the line that he took.
Well, Here you can peacekeep the Twilight Drake, making it pretty useless, as most buffs are not allowed. Um, Actually, Blessing of Might is allowed, but we haven't seen that from a single Paladin deck, have we?
Yeah, what do you think about trading in those haunted creepers? Just getting the extra 1/1s, getting the extra power on board.
Well,
What punish is it?
Explosive Sheep.
Yeah, but your opponent can't trigger the explosive sheep.
Elven Archer.
That doesn't punish. That only kills one of them. I think you get those juggles. You juggle
Get
it
the
up.
juggles. All right.
Maybe even Coghammer just to. You can.
Mm,
Well, nah. You probably
that
just
doesn't
play
seem so
that
good.
Elder. I guess you play.
There's some chances Twilight Drake dies to the juggles here.
Yeah, he
That
gets.
chance is
Like,
gone.
he gets like 6 juggles. No, he still gets like
No.
4
it's
more
gone.
juggles. It can still die.
Oh, right, to the creature that he plays.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Okay.
going face, right? Like no matter what. Okay, missed. That's
All
unfortunate.
right. Well,
Yeah,
there's a lot of juggling in the face, at least.
I like this play. Like, you're just putting a lot of power on the board.
Mhm.
It's really tough for Kibler to find a way to make this bad for Forsen.
Right. Right. It seems like Muster would be what you want to play, but if you play Muster, you can't play anything with it, and you have so many 5 drops in hand, it feels kind of sad. So perhaps the play is actually the Emperor, but then how do you win?
Yeah, I think you. There's basically 3 options. There's Muster, Blackwing, and Emperor. Emperor seems.
Big reason.
Yeah. I mean, your opponent's probably going to ignore it in some way, like with either this Aldor or Coghammer, stuff like that. And then you make 3/3s next turn, but you're taking what, like 7 damage, so you're just dead. If you go for Muster, I mean, it's kind of the same story. You get to make a bunch of 3/3s next turn, but doesn't matter. He actually traded Greedy. Oh wow,
Mhm.
those are not Silverhand recruits. Those are
And
not-
he would have had that one. So that was a pretty interesting play there from Kibler.
yeah,
Just trying not to lose to that quartermaster draw because he's shown the tournament how effective it is more than anyone, and he doesn't want to be punished by that, which seems like a fair play.
yeah. I think Mind Control Tech was better than Hero Power there. I mean, it's a 3/3, and if you quartermaster the Silverhand recruit, it's a 3/3. This is kind of a more hidden lethal. Like Forsen technically has lethal, but his opponent doesn't know, or does he? Let's see. He has.
It's 3, 4,
He has
7,
exact.
9. Yep, and he's at 9. That is exact lethal.
So yeah, this is more concealed, I suppose, but I still would have liked to just it wouldn't have mattered.
I like the sneakiness.
Okay. I guess the sneakiness is nice because your opponent's less likely to play something like a heal bot.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked out well for him.
Yes, it did. And Forsen takes the opening game, though with the deck that he just added. So I think you just have to give credit that it is most likely their best deck.
Paladin has probably posted the highest win percentage of this tournament. The only real stuff you lose is your 4-drop slot. You lose, the ability to play Kings, True Silver, Consecrate, but it's such an effective deck at getting ahead on board early with stuff like Muster for battle. And it also retains like some of its more power plays on turn 5. You get to keep Tyrion for the late game. So it's done really well. It's no surprise to see it win. Kibler's lost a mirror match, so it's not like it dropped the ball or anything.
Right. We haven't seen too many Tyrions out, though. I'm actually not convinced that it is in every deck. I think a lot of the Paladins mostly focus on the early to mid-range. I think the Tyrion is a non-factor in most games, but maybe after the game we saw just a short while ago, people might reconsider. But it doesn't matter because the only person that had the chance to reconsider was Forsen, and he just took the win with that Paladin deck.
Yep.
And that Magma Rager.
Well, it's gonna get pitched away. So, like you said the other day, it's probably the place you want to see it. I guess is in the mulligan. You can't redraw it.
You get the other one though. There is in fact 2 in this deck.
Yep.
We know that for a fact. The Voidwalker and the Leper Gnome, pretty decent. The Doom Guards have been very kind to Forsen. In fact, that's why he's here at all. Looks like he wants to pitch that though. Picks up a much worse card there with Nosdormu.
Yeah, I mean, is Nosdormu really better than Magma Rager? I feel like it really just isn't.
Yeah,
They're about the same.
it's true. Well, I feel against Kibler, the Nosdormu isn't too bad, just because with the way that his decks are designed, you're very likely to make it to a stage where you can play Nosdormu. And if
Yep.
you're in a marginal situation, you can win.
Yeah, I mean, Nosdormu has denied 2 onboard lethals this tournament. Just because the players were so frantic to not get roped out.
Yeah. All right, so you do the trade there.
Yeah.
Be a bit less vulnerable to a muster.
Yep. So now Forsen really needs to pick up something, or else he's gonna fall really far behind. I mean,
Is he? He has. Kibler has absolutely nothing next turn.
Yeah, I mean the other side of the table, he needs to pick up something too. And there's not many 4-drops in the deck, but a 3-drop.
That's a big something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a 3-drop that acts as good as most 4-drops.
Yep. So I would say Killer's, doing pretty well for himself here. You talked about Tyrion being a non-factor, but I feel like it'll really just seal up this game. Like,
Yeah.
when a game's pretty close, Tyrion's probably the best card to play on 8, especially when your opponents can't play Silence.
When you think about Argus here, attack into the 3/5 and Argus, you basically challenge the board in an even state.
Ooh, I was thinking about Argus trading the 3/2, but yeah, that makes sense too. You can, you don't get punished by much besides maybe a Cog Hammer, which
Yeah.
you're pretty sure isn't there. You probably would have seen it by now, but yeah, I mean, the tap Flame Imp really just put him further behind though, so it was ambitious. He does get to clear off one of these here. He can
Yeah.
choose the 5/4 and then waste the taunt, or he can choose a 3/2 and get an extra taunt.
I think I like this. I think I like removing the 5/4. It just makes it so you take less damage.
Yeah, this is fine. He's pretty much hoping Kibler's just going to brick on some stuff here. He knows he's been playing off the top pretty recently, but I mean, I think he's got plenty of gas to get through this game.
Yeah, Kibler's in a pretty good position here. With board initiative and very, very high quality late game cards. The Warlock just doesn't have those. Doesn't have like equal card for card answers, and when you're tapping, because you don't have that high quality 1-drop, you don't have that like really just high quality zoo deck. Tapping
Yeah.
just feels kind of bad.
Yeah, and I mean, there's really, 25 is already really high in just a constructed game, but especially when your deck's only real burn is Doomguards and Leopardomes, because you can't play any other burn. You don't have any cheese way out of the game. Forsen barely escaped against Savitz with a second Doomguard draw, but normally you can play stuff like Bane of Doom, Power Overwhelming. You just get more reach, and Forsen's going to be lacking that.
All right, well, Forsen pushes for the most board he can possibly push for. Normally, you would never see a play like this because you'd lose in a horrible way to Consecrate, but that card is not available to the players with our GEICO format.
Yeah, I feel like Forsen, again, is just, he's fighting for board and he's hoping, okay, if Kibler doesn't have anything great, maybe I can take over board and just coast that to a win, but Tyrion just challenges everything in the zoo deck.
Yeah, there's no silence. It's hard to kill that card. It's harder to do anything, and when you kill it, you lose a bunch of creatures to the weapon. And with Kibler being at 25, it doesn't matter that there isn't much healing involved in this deck.
Yeah, one of the cards I kind of looked at as kind of a cute alternative to removal and silence is you can still play Tinkmaster over Spark.
I've seen 0 of those, though.
We have not seen that quite yet. Mortal Coil here is a really nice draw, though, because otherwise the 1/1 would contest the 5/1 Lotheb body that he leaves behind.
There's another coil. That's also pretty good.
Yep, he's basically setting himself up. He's giving Kibler, a good trade, and then he gets to coil off the Azure or the Twilight Drake body.
Well, that's a pretty good draw. Muster lets you finish off
Yeah.
Loatheb and lets you combo with Quartermaster, which basically wins the game.
If there was a better play than Tyrion this turn, it was Muster Quartermaster.
Yep.
And with no Hellfire, no Shadow Flame, no real option to clear this board available, especially with Kibler just going face. One of the things that Kibler's realized
Okay.
is in this format, you can just basically go face all the time. There's very few things that punish you.
In fact, I don't even know what Forsen is looking for here.
Yeah, I mean, he can stay
That's
alive to the board. He has to Doomguard, but he has to Doomguard, and unless he kills off... He could tap. See, I really just don't understand why you would tap, though. Like, there's not much great stuff in your deck.
Yeah, but I guess at that point you just throw the towel.
Yeah.
So why play anything at all?
Yeah. So, off the bat, both Paladin decks get very easy wins. And just like that, the strongest class is out of the way.
Do you
Shaman's
feel
pretty much-
Paladin is the strongest class? Now definitively?
I think so, yeah. After kind of seeing it play out, I think Shaman's also really strong, but I think Paladin might have the advantage in that matchup just because they take over boards so well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I've really liked Paladin so far.
No, you're absolutely right. The Paladin not only does a pretty good job of stabilizing, not only has the option to play mid-range, as Kibler has shown us, but it also does a better job than Shaman, even though it doesn't have a lot of its key cards to battle aggro decks. What does that say about Shaman in Constructed, then?
Well, they have bad matchups, that's what it says. I mean,
Yeah.
Muster for Battle is almost like a counter to Lightning Storm, as unintuitive as that sounds. Like, it's just, you don't want to storm the 1/1s, but if you don't, you're dead to
just
Quartermaster.
lose.
Yeah. So it's the situation where it's always been Shaman's, one of their, worst matchups has been Paladin. Once you go into Constructed, you add stuff like Patron, and it's like, oh, geez.
All right, well, we have a Mech Shaman from Forsen up against Kibler's added deck for this final round, which is going to be Warlock, which so far seems exactly like Life Coach's Warlock.
Yeah, we saw Mind Control Tech, we saw Jiraxis. It is a slow Warlock deck. Maybe Kibler didn't quite see how crushed Life Coach got, but Life Coach should get crushed by Firebat, who had 3 extremely aggressive decks. Forsen, pretty aggressive.
Yeah,
I mean, he does.
3 pretty aggressive decks.
He does have the Mech Shaman. He does have a Zoo, and he does have Hunter left. So, I mean, I think this is a really important match for Forsen to win. If he just lets this Warlock get by, then Kibler has the Priest deck, which has consistently been very good for him, and the Shaman deck, which also has been pretty good for him. So I would say Kibler's weakest link is probably this Warlock deck.
Mm-hmm. All right, Forsen goes for the Cogmaster play. It allows him to play the... oh, that's a nice draw.
Yeah, I think he's just going to protect his board, though.
Yeah, because it still threatens 3 damage next turn. Right now, it basically is a charge on the Power Mace, so you kind of want to represent 6 damage next turn and still have a board left over. So, Kibler's struggling here.
This is basically exactly what we saw from the Life Coach game, which was having the life tap on turn 2 and 3 being just completely locking you out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The taunts are going to come down. He has Healbot. He has a lot of taunts, but stuff like Rockbiter is going to help him push through that without losing his board. And I have to think that eventually, with no board clears available, because you were talking about earlier, I mean, usually these taunts and heals are supplemented by board clears. You need a way to come back on board, because if you just keep playing taunts, you give your opponent the option of how they want to trade. They leave behind stuff, and eventually the taunts fall behind in that battle.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think about the Harvest Golem versus the Spider Tank? It seems like the Spider Tank would have fared better against just about everything. It also threatens more damage. Yeah, it's more resistant to getting hit with like 5 damage, I guess. But with Kibler playing
Yeah,
nothing so far, with Kibler playing mid-range, you have to kind of consider the fact that you want to kill Ascension the following turn.
I really don't think Forsen thought too much about the fact that Sinjin and Belcher are very likely in his opponent's range, and 5 damage is very relevant against both of those.
Hmm.
I think he just kind of figured, okay, I'm fighting for board. When you fight for board, Death Rattle minions are really nice. I'll just buff this up. What could go wrong? And he's
Hmm.
been one off of, that magic number 2 times in a row now.
All right, well, he's still doing fantastically here.
Yeah.
Kibler with most of the tools you'd expect in a slow Warlock deck, except for those board clears, which are pretty relevant. Seems like Kibler is just going to try to hang on this game as much as he can, but is it really enough?
Yeah, I mean, he's played 3 of his taunts. He has Defender Vargas left. He has a heal bot, but is that really going to be enough? Like, maybe not. He can. Forsen can get through most of this board. He does have to leave behind something. He has to leave behind the Sinjin at least. So, but again, it's kind of like eventually the Warlock has to clear the Shaman's board somehow
Hmm.
to win the game, or else you eventually will die.
What a
And
difference it
there's
would have
no.
been if he had the Spider Tank, though.
Yeah, I mean the Spider Tank would have just sealed the game for sure.
Do you feel there's really any chance from Kibler still though? I feel like it's just too slow to get on the board, too slow to set up a win condition. Really, the game that you're playing is probably to trade throughout the game and hope the shaman runs out of cards completely. And I don't know if that's really a winning strategy at this point.
I think you're just too slightly behind on board. Like you can clear off if you went abusive Doomguard, you could clear off the big threats, but then you're still taking 8 on the backswing. Your opponent develops more minions. You're just taking too much incremental damage. That again, if you can't clear the entire board, you will die. That's just kind of how it goes. And so
All right, well,
I
it
would
looks like he
think,
is making that play.
yeah, I think even if he runs Forsen out of cards, the fact that Forsen has minions just alive is enough.
And Forsen also has a lot of direct damage spells in his deck. We've seen quite a few of these shaman decks, and really the difference between the success and the failures has been that little bit amount of spell damage to seal out the games.
I think it was really intelligent by Kibler, though, not to kill the Fel Reaver, to leave it up. You take the same amount of damage, you challenge what's left with the 3-1 taunt, and you get to mill out. Forsen is at 4 cards, which means you get to mill out exactly his deck with his draw. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, if Kibler doesn't get 2 cards to play, then Forsen won't run out of cards. But he can basically run him out of cards. Like I said, though, the problem is he just has too much stuff. Like,
Yeah, I
even
mean,
if
look
he
at
mills
this.
him out, he can't win. He's just dead to board.
I-
I
Well,
mean,
Kibler needs a Shadow Flame, and he can't have that in his deck.
oh,
Oh! MC Tech.
I think you MC Tech before tapping. Yeah, you trade a bit first. You have
Narrow
to
down
MC
the
Tech the
options.
8-5. I think
Yeah.
you literally have to get the 8-5. Uh, yeah, that seemed it's a 1 and 4 to win the game, maybe.
Maybe.
No, and
What can you tap into now?
well, you have to tap into something. Nope.
Oh, do you know what would have been sick if he then tapped into another MC Tech?
Yeah, but then he couldn't use it.
He could have if he didn't attack first.
Yeah. So maybe there's a little merit to not attacking first. Just tap first, see what you get.
Depends what was there. But
So not tapping first is better if you take the Fel Reaver, because then you're not dead to the spare part that gives attack,
mhm.
which you got 2 of. So
Well, pretty
yeah,
rough stuff for Kibler. It does seem like perhaps this line of adding on another slow deck, especially being one that has kind of failed so far in the tournament, may not have been the best idea. But we will see in this best of 7. Being down 2-1 isn't the worst of situations.
yeah, he's gonna get off that deck ASAP though. He's just like
Yeah.
I'll take my priest win now, thanks.
Yeah. Looks like Forsen is going to try again with the Warlock. So far, the Warlocks have been very unsuccessful throughout the tournament. We've had less of a sample size from the slower Warlock decks, but seeing the games play out, it seems like they may actually be worse than the aggressive ones.
Yeah, what do you think about Forsen didn't play abusive on turn 1?
With Mortal Coil as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
seems a bit weird.
Kibler actually kept Azure Drake off the mulligan just because he values the extra
The
health.
hope.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
pretty intelligent.
Well, here comes probably a Blackman tick. Oh, the Dark Cultist. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I didn't quite see
So-
his hand there.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Forsen's going to be really ahead on board. And
Wow.
Velen's Chosen's going to have to carry pretty hard.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Even if you Velen's chosen, his creature still dies to the board while Forsen can continue developing his.
Yep. I mean, the main issue, though, is unlike last match, this priest deck isn't really filled with taunts. It's just, general value minions.
What do you think about just playing the Northshire and healing rather than Velen's chosen? That seems like it may have been better.
Yeah, the 1/3 body does contest those quite well anyway.
And you kind of require your opponent to kill both, which is
That was a really good draw for Forsen.
yeah, the one drop.
Yeah, now Shadow Word Death is legal in this format, so I was thinking maybe you could just jam down that Doomguard next turn. You can still do that, and I think you should.
Yeah,
But-
looks good.
Yeah, unless you top deck.
Oh
something.
yeah, yeah. You top deck the right card to Doomguard away.
Oh no, he's going for the Magma Rager. He
Well,
needs
if
to get this
if he
juggle.
gets the juggle, it's pretty good.
Oh, I
Nope, he
missed.
does not, though.
So now he has to trade. Why did he just Doomguard? He would have won so hard.
Well, the Magma Rager is still pretty effective in this situation.
Yeah,
Somehow.
who knew? Who knew? It's kind of been Kibler's thing, is his opponents having Magma Ragers and not getting punished. They're just actually good against Kibler.
All right. Well,
Half-
here comes Sylvanas.
It's
And there
happening
goes
against
the
all
thing.
3 of his opponents. All 3.
Forsen doesn't even want to trade.
I think you go face with that Magma Rager.
Because you're no longer vulnerable to death.
Yeah, you just go face. Your opponent's going to trade into that Magma Rager for you.
What cruel punishment we've resorted to.
He actually would. That's the best part.
Yep.
Oh, yeah!
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so sweet to watch. He's gonna trade into it too. So, I mean, we laugh, but good play by Forsen, going face with that Magma Rager.
And Forsen can basically drop his entire hand. Oh, Jeeves, though. You don't need that. I think it's time to go face and drop your
Yeah,
hand.
it's time to go face. Jeeves, he's dead, Crip. Your
Yeah.
opponent is dead. There's not a single combination of cards that are legal in this format that bring him back.
Right.
Who needs cards when your opponent's dead?
Those facial expressions from Kibler.
You don't trade. Come on. You thought about this last turn. The face is the place.
Face is the place. Forsen agrees. Or does he?
Okay, so your opponent draws Mind Control tech. They take the Doomguard. Oh, come on.
What?
Oh, what? Oh,
Alright.
come on.
Well, I believe there's
He-
still
he's-
no
he's
card that
still
works. Yeah.
I still would have been cool to go face. Yeah, you can draw 2 cards from these Northshires.
And I'm sure both of them would be just as meaningless.
Yep. Can't draw a Holy Nova, that's for sure.
Is someone injured?
Yeah. Holy Nova would have been alright. You would have been at 7. With some kind of board, kind of. But no, that doesn't do it.
Yeah,
Kibler
so
concedes. Forsen's up 3. Forsen is on match point here. Again, guys, for the final, we are doing best of 7. Forsen's added deck was the Paladin, which took a quick victory in the opening game. And now he's on Hunter, and he's got to beat up 3 mid-range decks. That can't be too hard of a task.
It's really not that hard. I mean, I think of his Hunter deck, we didn't see much of it. We saw a lot of one-drops. I think if it's well built, it's almost guaranteed to take a win off one of these three. Kibler's going to go with the strongest option first, try to get a win on the board with Priest. We've seen his Priest do really well against Hunter. It's 2-0 against Hunter in his past 2 matches. But that is a pretty powerful Hunter hand.
Yep, double Lepronome, double Juggler. That's 2 pair.
But Kibler showing his prowess at drawing turn 1, 2, 3s.
Yeah. What can you do here? Pass?
You have to coin out the Juggler. You have to get rid of it. Yeah.
That sucks.
It'd be okay if your opponent didn't have a Shadow Boxer to follow it up. The Shadow Boxer makes you just want to quit.
Yeah.
So, like, if the Priest passed, you're fine.
This is what Kibler designed the deck to be. I mean, he wanted like early game, mid game threats that would just challenge these low creatures very well. The problem with that, while I think when it happens he does take wins, I feel like there's a huge consistency gap between the decks that run a lot of 1-drops and this type of Priest deck. So even though it does counter, I feel like probably 1 out of 3 games just the opposite happens and you don't draw the required cards.
Yep.
Well, that deckhand really wants to be played.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Whoa.
I think that was a bit of a problem on our end. It's pretty fine now. Looks like a turn passed, and Forsen has developed a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
And this is one of the problems for the Priest deck. When you don't have a large quantity of attacking minions, 2 1s can just overwhelm you.
Yeah, I mean he's pushing 6 damage this turn. He'll probably push at least another another round of 6 damage next turn. 4 damage when Lepronomes die. You're threatening the Fel Reaver next turn. It is going to get death, but
well, I think that's good for him that it baits out this death. All that really does is remove 2 more damage. Forsen's even emoting. I mean, this clears a path for your Fel Reaver, and the Fel Reaver, from what we can see, unless there's another death top decked, will connect. And suddenly, after having a pretty good start, I mean, a 1-drop into a 2-drop, he blanked 1 turn.
yeah, that's exactly
that might
it.
be enough, yeah.
The
1
consistency
turn.
drop.
And he does have quite a few 3-drops. I mean, we've seen Dark Cultist, we've seen Velen's Chosen. I guess that really wouldn't have done anything since he didn't have board, but maybe Dark Cultist is the only 3-drop, and yeah. I mean, now I look at this, and it's like Forsen's pushing a lot of damage, and again, comeback mechanics, pretty much non-existent.
Well, if death happens, it's still recoverable, I feel.
Yeah.
It just has to be like a 1 in 20 here to top deck death.
That's not death.
That is death, but it's for Kibler.
Right. So, you kill the Worgen, because that's the best you can do. You gotta play
the Akanai and ping it, or no? You gotta play more stuff than that.
Yeah, I don't think you can play Akanai. I think you have to play Dark Cultist, Twilight Whelp, and heal yourself. And then you're at, what? You're at 12, 8, 6, and from the hand, the Abusive, you go down to 4. So, Killer's going to go with that exact play, probably. You got to heal yourself, of course. So you're living on the prayer.
Kill command, bow. Oh, goodness, Durham is out. Fortune's like, at least...
No.
Oh, there we go, the Wolf Rider.
Yeah, is that it? He's 1 off, right? Yeah. But with the Lepronomes out, and no healing in Kibler's deck, that's it.
Are we sure there's no healing in Kibler's deck? What if there's like a Holy Fire?
That is legal. So, but would he have enough to clear the board anyway? He would, right? Yeah, he would. He could actually live with a Holy Fire top deck. And like by live, I mean just survive another turn, because he'd have to leave both Lepronomes up.
Well, that's not it. And Forsen is our champion.
Championson takes another tournament win to add to his resume. We're going to have to update the copy pastas.
Yeah, very good stuff from Forsen. I feel like his strategy throughout the tournament was pretty good. It's just, it seems like aggressive decks are going to work. Build 3 aggressive decks, sees what he misses in the final very, very well. I feel like I think Kilbler had a really good chance just when the players had 3 decks apiece. But with the addition of each of the decks, the improvements that Forsen made to his lineup versus the improvements that or liabilities that Kibler added to his lineup, I guess could be argued, really weighed it in Forsen's favor. So certainly well deserved, well played, and congratulations to Forsen boys.
Yeah, I mean, I think Forsen had his strategy was similar to some other players, but I think his decks were actually a little more refined. The Hunter deck wasn't, met crazy. He just threw in Fell Reaver, which again I think was a really smart choice. Put in as many 1-drops as he could fit, and just went face. And I mean, that's what won him this tournament. So,
Yeah.
really smart strategy. And speaking of tournaments, GEICO and One Nation of Gamers, who sponsor this tournament, they are running an entire summer circuit of open tournaments, which you guys at home can play in. So if you head over to liquidheart.com, you can sign up for those. They happen every week. The next feature tournament is this Friday, actually, at 6 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to check that out as well. Huge thanks to GEICO and One Nation of Gamers for putting on these tournaments.
And thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys had some fun. I know that we started up a bit late today, but it's these days a lot of tournaments happening, and I'm glad to be part of this. I'm glad to be part of the exciting, the fun rules tournaments. And I think overall the result was very good. Um, yeah, I think
Orson boys.
Forsen boys, Forsen boys indeed. Congratulations to him. Forsen takes home $2,000, and hopefully you guys took out a good viewing experience. Again, check out the future tournaments that will be hosted. And we're not quite done yet. Looks like we are going to get Forsen for another interview. Forsen really likes the what is the limelight? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, sure. He's a
Yeah.
popular guy.
Yeah, it keeps coming in for these interviews. Well, it should be interesting to hear how he prepared for the final match because I think above anything else in this tournament, he did that in the absolute best way possible. So we'll take a short break while we get him set up, while we get set up, and we'll see what he has to say then. Hello, everyone. We have Forsen, the champion of the GEICO Brawl, here with us. You keep coming back, man. Like every time you win, you're here, and
Yeah,
you've been the star of the interview session among your recent titles. How do you feel, man?
I feel good, man. A bit tired. Had a long stream session before this.
Okay, okay. Well, you certainly did very well. We both thought that the adjustments that you made going into the final were about as best as you could have made them. So we're very happy to see that. We did consider very well deserved, very try hard win. Did you spend all of the time between today and yesterday to come up with this final edition, or how did this take place?
No, I just made my deck yesterday after I saw that Brian Kibler was in the semifinals because I thought that his decks were gonna beat probably the other two competitors that were remaining. So I just prepared a deck that was a good control deck, mid-range control Paladin that was better against this version of decks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I mean, his addition was the Control Warlock, which seemed a lot like the Life Coach deck, which didn't win games. Were you surprised to see that?
No, I mean, I was pretty sure he was gonna play the same style, and considering he already had Shaman and Paladin, Warlock was probably one of the better classes to do that with, playing mid-range styles, because they have some good defensive early minions as well, and that seemed to be his theme. With the dragon priest thingies, the one drops, and then like zombie
Yep.
chows in every deck, and then void walkers are really good against aggro. So I was like guessing he was gonna play something like that.
All right. Well, he did. It didn't really work out for him too well. I mean, you're obviously here, so yeah, pretty good stuff. I don't know.
Yep.
You've been here a lot. We've asked you what you think about the tournament and stuff. But you have anything to mention now that you've won it?
No, not really. Just want to thank all my Forsen boys for staying up, watching, I guess. Thanks for the support.
So with you winning tournaments recently and Forsen Boys being 2-0 in the Archon League, like, is this just are the Forsen Boys taking over finally?
I don't know, man. Maybe we have to take a step back. This is way too try hard for me.
Too try
actually.
hard, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I go to
So-
your website to learn how to get Legend?
I don't have a website yet, but you know what? Maybe I'll make one.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Congratulations again. Certainly
man.
well deserved. Another one to add to the Force and Boys resume, and hopefully that list continues. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed GEICO Brawl #1. It's been a lot of fun to cast the Achaki, and it's been great to watch you play Forsen. So, all good
Thanks.
stuff. Thanks for
Yeah.
watching, guys. We'll see you next time.